Welcome to Chapter 4. We're going to be talking about fractions and all kinds of different operations we can do with fractions, and there's a lot of little concepts and rules that we need to remember. But to just get us started, to give us some basic vocabulary and understanding of what fractions are, we want to make sure that we know what fractions look like. So they're always going to be in this format where we have a number and then a line and the number on the bottom. So one on the top and one on the bottom. And the top number is always called the numerator, and the bottom is always called the denominator. So we want to make sure that we recognize those terms, those vocabulary words, because you're going to see them in the book and you're going to hear me use them. And I'll go back and forth between saying the top and the bottom, or the numerator and the denominator. So you'll hear me say those back and forth. But what do these numbers represent? So 1/4, 3/8. Sometimes you'll hear say 1/4 or 1/4 and 3/8. So what does that mean? So basically we have some shapes here. Most people like to think in terms of pie. So pieces of pie or pieces of a cookie or whatever. You can make these rectangles or squares or whatever you want. The denominator tells us how many pieces there are total. Okay, so if we have a pie and we want to cut it into 4 pieces, that's what the bottom number is telling us. So we would have to make cuts like this so that we have 4 pieces. So this represents the total. All right. So over here we have 8. We want to cut this pie into 8 slices. So we're going to have to make a couple extra cuts. So again, as we can see, the bottom, or the denominator, represents how many slices total. The top number is how many slices are we taking out? How many slices have been eaten? How many slices are we really talking about? So the bottom is the total, but the top is representing the part that we're concerned with. So we're only concerned with 1 piece of the 4. So this represents, the top number represents what we would actually color in our model. So 8 pieces, but we're only dealing with 3 of them. So we would just color in 3. And so this just kind of gives us a little representation of what fractions represent. Very brief introduction. There are a lot of problems that are assigned for homework in this chapter. And it's basically because I want to make sure you have a good understanding of fractions, because they aren't going away. You will see them in Math 2 all the time. And we just want to make sure that we get, enough practice in Math 1 that we have that good foundation to build on in Math 2. So again, what our fractions look like, just numbers on top of other numbers. So pieces of a whole or parts of a whole, where the bottom number or the denominator represents how many pieces total. And the top number represents the part that we're concerned with.